Hello and good day to you, my beautiful friends. I do hope you are well. Welcome to episode 68 of Cross Button VR, our journey into the world of VR. I'm your host, Laurie, and it is an honor to be joined by two of the most chilled as fuck influencers in the metaverse. It's Reese and Alex. Hello, chaps.
Good
Hello there.
evening. Hello.
Are you chilled?
Yes. No?
Chilled as
Not
fuck?
really.
No, Alex, you're watching the football. Scotland
I was
doing
watching-
well at the moment.
No, it's not going well at time of recording. It's just
I'm
hit
sure
half
you must have
time.
been quite
Alex
glad
is
to switch it
irate.
off. Well, you know what they say, Alex. Game of two halves and all that. You never know.
Yeah, game of two halves of
You ain't coming
that
back
get
from
worse. Yeah. Come on,
Good.
Scotland.
Yeah, well, good. I'm sure it'll be England's turn. We'll see what happens there on Sunday. Anyway, so we've got quite a big episode this week. We've got an interview lined up with the Sushi Ben developer, Big Brane Studios co-founders, Kane, Tyler, and Brian Edward Hicks. You won't want to miss that because that is a fantastic interview, whether you've played the game or not. It really is a great insight, again, as all our developer interviews are, it's just into how these games are made, the passion and the love that goes into the challenges that people have to face. So yeah, really recommend people stick around and listen to that at the end of the episode. But first, let's talk about the news, shall we? Yes?
Yeah.
Good.
I'm just nodding along to you just so you can
You
rush
are
it.
nodding along. No
Go-
rush.
go-
No rush.
go on, Laurie.
Take our time. We've got plenty of time. Let's start with a very topical news. We saw Cleansheets. We talked about them last week. We had the interview last week with James. They've got a new event on. It's Cleansheets Euros. Very topical. So this is running from now until 14th of July. Lots of Euros-based challenges. Reese, you know more about this? You're the
So I
man.
watched the little TikTok thing that James did. So when you start the game, you select your team, and then the one who saves the most goals at the end of it will be able to select a item from the store, I believe it is. I feel like Alex is nodding.
Yeah, it's a top 10 in the leaderboard will get to pick whatever they want in terms of DLC for the game.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say like the winner of it gets a bit of DLC. That's not the best price.
I mean, have you seen the favelas on the quest? I mean,
But I suppose, yeah, if it's 10
Price.
people, if they're going to give away to everyone, that's fair. I was going to say it's quite harsh to really give it to one person, but that sounds good. Well, I mean, that's great. And I mean, the interview last week, if people haven't listened to it, that was a really good interview that you guys did with James. Yeah, just fascinating the what went on in the design and the development of that game and how they just launched it, really, and that whole story.
Scotland keeper could do with giving it a go.
Yeah, 3-0 down.
James, contact the Scotland keeper, mate, if you're watching this.
You would have saved that first goal if he'd been playing a bit more clean sheet, I can assure you.
Well, I remember James saying that they're trying to. You got all these loads of tech companies trying to tout their wares to these elite sports teams and stuff, and it's just impossible to get in front of them generally and stuff. But yeah, Clean Sheets clearly is one that they need to make an exception for. Cool. Well, Clean Sheets very good at simulating football penalty goalkeeping. But another game that's also very good at simulating stuff, KayakVR Mirage, to give it its correct title. Couple of bits of news from that game this week, which is a bit out of the blue. Nice surprise to get because I love that game. It's
The
been
deep blue.
added to PS Plus Premium. So it's now another one of the games, and it's great to see that the initial list that Sony put out has already been expanded, which is good. Suggests that there's going to be further games added
Within a
over the coming
week.
weeks and months. Yeah, I mean that was. I wonder if maybe that just wasn't quite ready to be part of the day one lineup, and maybe they're just sorting a few.
I wonder if
things
there's
out.
just more that it's going to keep announcing. They've got a few that are lined up
I
ready
hope
for
so.
each month. I
I
really
hope
do
so.
as well.
It would be great
I
for the sort of PSVR2 visibility if Sony keep talking about it when there's new games added to that collection.
Yeah, and we saw a lot of people pick it up during the Days of Play sale as well. There's been quite a few people I've seen poke up on Twitter with the new PSVR2 headsets. So I think it's a great idea for them to keep adding to this collection now.
If they can get that collection to like a dozen games, that's going to be a real tempting thing for someone to think, okay, the headset's expensive, but I don't have to buy any games for it now. That makes it a lot. The value proposition there just completely changes. But the other good thing about Kayak VR Mirage is that it's just also got some new DLC track. I was going to say track. It's not track. It's a environment, I think they call them. And this is set in the Soccer Valley in Slovenia. And I have played this already. I jump straight into it. It's probably the best environment they've done so far. It's really, really impressive. And the thing that's exciting and unique about this one is that it includes whitewater rafting. And all the rest of the environments are just quite calm. And there's some that are a bit kind of stormier, choppier waters, but you have to paddle through them. Whereas this one includes some whitewater rafting section where you are just brought down the river and you just have to kind of steer and balance and move your body. And that is such a different feel to how it plays. And it really makes me excited that these guys could do an entire whitewater rafting game and it would be brilliant. It's so fun. And I put a little video on my Twitter and shared it with you guys, just the experience of doing that. And just when you come off of this waterfall at the end of it and you sort of go underwater, it's really, really exhilarating. It's such an impressive feat that they've done with this game.
And I'm right to think the DLC's coming to PS Plus as well. Am I
I
making
believe
that
so.
up?
That's what the
Yeah,
post sounded like it
I
said as
thought
well,
it's-
yeah. Although there was a little bit of confusion there as well that we noticed straight off the bat, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I think you have to pay for it. Although I don't know.
I thought it was coming to the print.
That will be in it as well, will it? Okay, yeah.
I thought that's what the blog
That's
said.
what I thought. But
Again,
maybe
though,
wrong.
I'm going to say with the confusion that was around it, don't quote us on this, just simply because, there was a bit of oddness to it. So
if you own the game and you want to get the DLC at £6 to get, which I think is pretty good value. You could spend kind of a very happy bit of time in there. There's some new bits of wildlife. It's a very different feel to some of the other levels, or the environments that they've got in the game. So yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised this week by the update for that.
I've not tried it yet, so I will definitely have to get round to it.
Be sure that you do. Moving on, we saw some gameplay this week posted for EXOcars, which looks like a kind of rally dirt track style racer game, which looks really cool. Just a very short snippet, but it really made me think, why aren't there more racing games? Because this looks fantastic.
It does look pretty good. I mean, I still haven't played Gran Turismo, and that's simply because I'm really bad at driving games, just in general, not just in VR. So that's one of the reasons why I haven't played GT yet. But this one really gripped me, like just the look of it. I feel like that would be more me than a normal racetrack. So I'm interested. Had like a Mad Max look to it as well. That's probably why I was a bit more interested.
Well, it really reminded me of Motorstorm, which is a
Yes.
PS3 launch title, which I guess they're going for that on purpose. I don't know. They'd be sensible to, because that's kind of a game that's completely...
People have been asking for as well.
Yeah, and that was a Sony published game as well, so it's surprising that they've just another series that they've just let go dormant and probably...
Because it kind of got replaced by, Drive Club, really? And then Drive Club disappeared.
It shouldn't have got replaced by Drive Club, though, should have it? Let's be honest.
Was that the same studio?
I don't know if it was the same studio. I actually quite like Drive Club. But like Motorstorm RC was probably one of my favourite games in the Vita. It was like the little remote controlled Motorstorm cars. It was so good.
What one's that?
Micro Machines-esque. Motorstorm RC.
Ah, okay.
It was so good.
But I mean, this game looks cool though, and it's good to have more realistic racers, I think, in VR, because they work so well.
I'm more into like karting games, like Sackboy Racing, Crash Team Racing, all that kind of stuff. I can play them, but realistic stuff.
Yeah, we've not talked to you about that kart racing game on PSVR2. I mean, let's not talk about it now, but one for the future. There's that kart game, Galaxy Kart, I think it's called.
Yeah, Galaxy Kart.
Cool. All right. Well, EXOcars. Hopefully, that's not too long away. I think you can wishlist it on Steam. I think they've confirmed it is coming to PSVR2, but there's no data or anything on that one. So, one to keep an eye on there. Next thing we've seen, this is not really news. This is kind of non-news, a negative bit of news, is that Astro Bot, they've confirmed, is never coming to PSVR2. A lot of people thought, maybe there'll be sort of a post-launch update. Maybe they'll just reveal it later on that it is going to be a VR game. No, it's not coming. The developers have said, no, we have designed this from the ground up for non-VR. It wouldn't work for us to port it to VR, to make it in VR. The Flat 2 VR guys are like, we'll see about that, my friend.
Hold our VR headsets. We'll sort this out for you.
Hold my beer. So yeah, it's not coming though. So anyone expecting there to be a surprise reveal later on, then just get over it. I still think my theory now is this year will be they'll do Astro Bot. I think it's going to be a really massive game for them, and I think there's so much hype built for it. I think it's probably taken them by surprise just how much excitement there is for it, and I really hope it is as good as the previews for it look absolutely fantastic. So I'm glad they focused on just making the game they want to make and make it brilliant. And if that creates a huge new audience and demand and appetite for Astro, the easiest thing in the world to then the team Asobi can just then move on next year to porting Rescue Mission over to VR, and that could be a great way for them to push headsets next year if they've got that, because there'll be a ready audience of people there that love Astro Bot now that would want to play the next Astro Bot game, especially if they do like some enhanced, expanded edition of it.
That would be quite good if they did an expanded edition. But I also feel like the haptics would work for that game. Yeah, all right, Alex. Okay.
Alex has lost all. You're like, you're so excited.
You just need to accept it.
The thing is, though, I'm kind of with Alex on this. Like, okay, give up it. And as soon as you hear Laurie speak about it, he speaks about it with such passion and prowess that you're like, oh, but maybe there's a glimmer of hope somewhere.
Well, I just think they've got an Astro Bot game, and the next year people are going to be like, oh, we love Astro Bot now. Like,
I think the big argument that I've always had with Rescue Mission is that it would be a difficult port because it works off of a DualShock controller. It doesn't work off of the Sense controllers. So porting that game would mean changing the whole interface of how you control the character and the play.
I've got news for you, Reese. The PS5 has a DualSense controller as well that you can use for games.
Yeah, it does have a DualSense controller.
Gran Turismo 7 doesn't use the...
Why would I want to use that anymore, though?
Well, I'm just saying, like, you can just use... Everyone owns...
No, they could implement it. They really could.
But didn't it work off the light on the DualShock controller?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, that's how you would move it around.
If they can get
that
Tearaway to go from a Vita to the fucking PS4 and 5, then I'm sure they can work something out. Like,
they had a touchpad. They're both interchangeable.
Right, move on. Enough.
We're going to be here all night. Forget Astro.
Yeah. We need to just do 1 week. 1 week. We'll just do an Astro Bot episode. We'll just talk about nothing else.
Forget about Astro Bot. Just think about Max Mustard, okay? That's all you need to remember now, okay? He's here to save us.
Okay, well, let's think about Star Wars instead, which was the best-selling game of May for the PSVR2.
Yeah, that reminded me of...
See that segue?
Uh-huh. That reminded me that I forgot about it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So did I.
Yeah.
We both...
I forgot to buy it, and I wish I kicked myself. So I really want to play this, but it'll be on sale again. They'll once something goes on sale.
That was a good sale. That was.
Oh, good bit of sale. That good, lovely bit of sale.
Yeah, I do like a good sale. I do, mate.
Yeah, it'll be on sale. I'll pick it up later. But yeah, because everyone loves Star Wars, don't they? And then after that, but I mean, that was the top seller, but only because it got its massive discount and everyone rushed out and bought it. So it's unsurprising, and it's good to see that it got a big load of success from that. Madison VR was the second best selling game, which obviously didn't get a huge discount. So that's probably the more accurate example.
Yeah,
it's the best selling game. So yeah,
rightfully so. I'll give them that.
There. Yeah.
I just want to give a wee shout out though, because not on these ones, but I think if you looked at the rest of the charts and you've seen that Sea of Thieves was the top of the PlayStation chart in Europe and in the US, you just think
that's good to hear.
It just shows that it's nice to see like we can all play nice.
I think Minecraft was number 2 as well. It's like just the Xbox Game Studios just cleaning up on PlayStation. Good for. I mean, it's good. There's been a lot of talk this week about exclusives just not being a thing anymore with like Horizon Adventures going onto the Switch as well, and it's I'm all for that. It's just especially in the VR space because fucking exclusives still pisses me off. I can't play Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, maybe one day. We thought they was going to announce it at UB Forward, but they did announce Just Dance VR, so there is that coming. So
yeah, not for PSVR2 though.
No. Yeah, okay, sorry for Quest, but we cover it all here.
Exclusive. Yeah, I'm just saying it's another exclusive, which is what they don't need. But
yeah, it's true.
But yeah, I mean, Just Dance VR, that looks really cool. Sounds like a great idea. Cool. All right, let's move on. Walkabout Mini Golf, another big update. Ever reliable. This game, just they won't stop making it. I love it.
Update every month.
Now they've made the game, and now they're just remaking the game one course at a time. Apparently, so the big news this week was that the Cherry Blossom, which is one of the original courses, on the everyone's got it. Part of the base game has been remastered now, so it's much bigger, lusher, more detail. Yeah, so it just looks a whole lot better, which is pretty cool. I mean, it looked good before, so now it looks even better. it makes me wonder: are they going to go through and just redo every level?
I think
Why
so,
not?
because I mean that's the
Yeah.
second one, isn't it? Because I think they did the first one. Is that right? Certainly, I think that's the
I
second
have
one they've
a
done.
feeling they
so-
did, yeah. But more exciting than remaking the game that they've already still making is some new modes, and these sound really cool. So I'm just going to read these off. We've now got match play, which is a new higher stakes way to complete, where the player who wins the most holes wins the match. Okay, play ends automatically when someone wins a hole and the match. Next up is race mode. This is the clock is ticking. First player in a multiplayer round to complete the final hole wins, and simultaneous play means you are in a sweaty battle to finish first.
Nice.
Stroke count doesn't matter. Hear that, guys? Stroke count.
One for
doesn't
Reese,
matter.
that one.
Yep, stroke away. So get to it in 3, 2, 1. So yeah. Again, that sounds like a lot of fun that you can just
It
play around,
does.
and you can just, it doesn't matter how many goes, you can just whack the ball and just, you can go for the really sort of the shortcut shots that you can just keep going until you get it. Because there's got a lot
Means I
of holes
can
that you
finally finish, guys.
Yeah, it's always good when you finish. Simultaneous mode as well, and this is in the new variant on the standard gameplay. You play a classic round, but everyone can play at the same time, making for much speedier rounds. Which again, Reese, speedier rounds.
All right. Okay. I get it. I'm bad at Walkabout Mini Golf, but at least it's fun when I play it, right? It's a good laugh.
I thought he was just going for euphemisms there, but anyway.
He was, but I thought I better start taming it out a little bit. There was just too many back to back.
I'm feeling very childish. But that's really cool though, because when we try and play games, sometimes if we go around a course, especially with Reese playing, it can take a good hour to play if there's 3 or 4 of you in there playing at the same time, because you have to wait for everyone to take their turn. But if you
I
can
like
go around
to take my stroke limit. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, if you can go simultaneously, so have a threesome or a foursome all at the same time. It's just it makes much quicker games. Everyone can
I just
finish
can't
much
anymore.
quicker, and you're gonna have a lot more happy people. So what
Sorry.
about mini golf?
Can you drink more when we're doing the podcast, please?
My first
Stroke
one.
yourself senseless.
Oh,
Final bit of news this week. Oh God, Thrasher has been revealed.
what's that? Go from
Thrasher.
stroke into Thrasher. Bloody hell,
Thrasher has been
this
revealed.
is-
And this is the new one by the devs of the game I've now forgotten the name of.
Thumper.
Thumper, that's it. Yeah, from Thumper to Thrasher. So this is another game. Looks very similar to Thumper in that it's kind of a... Well, that was called a rhythm violence game, which always sounds like a horrible genre to me. But this is, cosmic racing, bosses, combos, set in space, PC, console, and VR as well. So again, just like Thumper was. So yeah, this looks very cool.
It looks very good fun. So it's coming to Quest and to Apple Vision Pro, and I think it's all hand tracked. So I don't think
Cool.
I don't know if it uses controllers as well, but certainly how they're advertising it's hand tracked. Maybe on the Quest it'll also use controllers. But it looks similar enough to Thumper, but different enough that it's something new. So yeah, definitely one I'm interested in checking out.
Well, yeah, and Thumper was very well regarded, wasn't it? By
Yeah.
very well
Decent
loved
game.
So I still need to get around to that because I've got a £2 upgrade to be able to play it on PSVR2.
No, it's worth it then for that price, definitely.
Yeah,
Can't go wrong.
Completely forgot I had that option actually. To be honest, so I do need to give that a go. But yeah, Thrasher, cool. No idea of a date or anything yet on that one. So
I think it was July. No,
Oh,
I think it's
we do
July.
have an idea of a date.
Yeah.
Hooray! I have no idea what the date was. but-
Me either. Alex is really interested in this one, so I'm glad he knows.
Okay, July. Okay, well that's cool. I mean, that's not for PSVR2 there. It's just for other platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully we'll get the port to PSVR2 at some point soon as well.
Don't worry, Laurie. You'll have a question enough, mate. You won't need to worry about this. Is it coming to PSVR2 thing?
Well, I was going to say I'll have the Apple Vision Pro soon enough. I'll be able to-
Well, I was looking at that the other night.
No.
Like, oh.
No, Alex.
No, I'm not getting one. I'm
Stop.
That could be a
You've got
nice.
$3.5 grand worth of Lego behind you. so you can
That'll
probably
look nice on my shelf.
Sell that all and get an Apple Vision Pro.
I was more just thinking about 40th birthday presents.
Maybe if I didn't go for the
For me?
PC, I could have got the Apple
No,
Vision.
yeah, for you, Laurie. If I buy you one, will you buy me one?
No.
Oh.
No. Sorry.
Ah, The love.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not buying an Apple Vision Pro.
My wife was like, who's this? Why has £3.5 come out of our savings account?
Yeah.
Oh, it's this guy that I know of. This guy I met on the internet once.
You know, Alex from the podcast. Yeah, we do it each week. Yeah, well, he bought me an Apple Vision Pro, so I had to buy him one in return. And yeah, I don't know if that'll go down too well.
When you put it like that. Okay, let's move on to what we've been playing in this slightly chaotic episode.
Yeah, loving it.
You two have been playing the Quest, haven't you?
Yes, we've been playing Taskmaster.
Oh my goodness.
I have.
Keep the mask on.
You want me to keep the mask on?
Can't hear us if we keep the mask on. Is that all right? Yeah, we've both been playing Taskmaster. We got a lovely little PR kit through. It's nice. We got a little Taskmaster trophy, some little ducks.
All right. With your
sweets,
some sweets. It lasted all of 5 minutes.
Yours, mine lasted longer than his, which is surprising. I didn't expect that.
Reese was like, "Do you want to send me a picture of everything that came?"
Tell
in the
me
box?
about the game.
Like,
I don't know about all your free tat you got sent.
So it's. Well, we're kind of putting off talking about the game. It's good, but I don't know. It doesn't feel right. Something just feels a bit off.
You need a bit more time in the oven.
I don't even know if it's that. I just don't know if it works.
I was trying to. Go on.
It's even like, see the way it's set, and it's set as if you're competing in like a series of Taskmaster, and it's split between like 5 episodes. But you're in between tasks. You've got like Greg and Alex like basically ripping you a bit, but it feels very stilted. Like it doesn't feel like it flows nicely, and it's not that funny.
Yeah, I found it quite unnatural with their back and forth.
It just I don't know. It feels like it was such a good idea, but I'm just not sure like the ideas really worked. Which is a shame. Like some of the games in that are silly enough, they're fun enough. I think if you were doing it more as a multiplayer thing, I think it would be more fun if you could play it together rather than just setting up different tasks for people. But yeah, it's a shame. I'm a wee bit disappointed.
Yeah, same, because I think the whole slapstick humour type of thing of it is it's there. They've captured that, I'd say, really well. It's got that similar, just over the top silliness, a bit like What the Bat in a sense, and that works for it. I've got no issues with that. And I think that's definitely a strong point. Like Alex said, with the conversations back and forth between Greg and Alex, it kind of feels like it was one of them recorded one thing and then they went, okay, we'll come back to this 2 days later. And then they recorded the other part and they've kind of not done it in the same room together to get that back and forth that you would have.
Which in comedy is presumably quite important.
Yeah, it's quite noticeable. So I think that's something I picked up on. Also, I was kind of hoping for more of an aggressive Greg Davies than what he's on there. So that's been my disappointment there, because I do like Greg Davies' comedy. So I was hoping for a bit more adult humour. But obviously, I think they've catered this game to everyone in a sense, which isn't a bad idea. But my main issue for me is, I've been trying to think of the best way to describe it, is the movement. It almost feels like it has a bit of a delay in it, and I think that's the only way I can really word it. And I don't know if that's the best way to word it, but like when you rotate, like I feel like I'm rotating quicker with my analog, and my eyes want to move faster than the game is actually rotating round. So I found that a bit off-putting at first, and then even with the movement, it was quite slow to the point where I don't know, it just feels like he's carrying weights. So I feel like if they was to fix the movement for me, I'd definitely enjoy my time a lot more. I think I could look past the dialogue stuff, but obviously movement's such a big part in a game like this where you're moving around doing these tasks. And if it does have that kind of delay feel or sluggish feel is another way I'd probably put it as well. It just kind of takes a lot of that enjoyment away from me. I don't necessarily think it's a bad game. I think their vision is quite on point there with it, but I think the execution with how it's been done on some stuff is pretty flawed. But I also think it could be fixed. So. Yeah, might be worth looking at it in a few weeks' time when hopefully they get a bit more feedback from players and they say what they want to be changed and things like that. But I think at the moment, the movement for me just makes me go, no, it's too slow. I need faster movement in VR.
Fair enough. Well, I have never seen Taskmaster, so I can't even begin to imagine what you would do in a game about Taskmaster, but don't feel like you need to explain it. I'm sure our audience knows full well what it is.
Oh, you're doing
a
silly
then
tasks.
you're probably not that interested in the game.
Really?
It's like there's one like Twilight Zone. If you don't interested in that IP, you're probably not going to need to. So don't spend any time explaining how Taskmaster works or what you do, because I'm sure people already know if it's something they're interested in. Well, other than Kayak VR and more Sushi Ben, which I still absolutely love, people should play that. I have been playing Retropolis 2, which came out this week, and it is a very impressive game. I'm really impressed. I really like it. I haven't finished it, so I can't review it. I'll just give my sort of first impressions now, just quickly, and then maybe we'll talk about it once got a bit further in it, because it's definitely one that I want to keep playing. It is very much a point and click style game. It's very reminiscent of those LucasArts like Sam and Max style point and click games from back in the day, to the point that it can be quite obtuse and confusing what you need to do. But once you kind of have to kind of retrain your brain as to, because it's such an old style of gameplay that nowadays games are just a bit more sort of intuitive or helpful or sort of kinder to the player. And this has some element of that. And it's like, no, work it out. You got to just, come on, work it out. Just put that with that and then do that with it. And then you can do that and then move on. But you are a robot. It's set in this kind of robot detective film noir style thing. It's very good, that kind of 50s setting and vibe. It does a very good job of capturing all of that. The dialogue is really good. The music's really good. It looks really nice. You are trying to solve this kind of like a missing persons case that you're trying to do, and you go from room to room, and there's, in each environment you're in, each sort of setting, or each chapter, I think they're called, there's you can't move, you're completely static. You can just look around, you can turn around on the spot, and you've got robot extending arms, so you could just essentially you're pointing and clicking basically, and your arms extend to grab the things that you want to interact with. And sometimes you'll pick them up, sometimes the character will just say, no, I don't think I can use that right now, or whatever it might be. And yeah, you have to basically just look around the environment to think, okay, I need to find that, and I can look around with that, and I can combine it with this and get this out of my inventory and use that over here and stuff. So I've done this. It's episodic. The first episode I've done, it's taken me probably about an hour. I've finished that one, and that's got its own kind of little climax, and then we're into episode 2 where the story moves on. And yeah, I think it's really well made. Everything it sets out to do, it does really well.
How long roughly was it to complete the first episode? Just out of curiosity.
About an hour, I think.
You just said that, Reece.
Did you just say that? Sorry.
I did just literally say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, my bad.
I
I was still thinking about Taskmaster. So
I was droning on for a bit too long there, so I apologize.
Yeah. You lost me.
Switched off.
No, Joe, I was thinking about it as well while you was talking about it. I feel like you and VR Realm have a similar taste in a lot of games. Like ones that he seems to really like, you play and then you rave about them as well. So I think you two just need to sit down. He just needs to tell you all his
get him on the
games.
show. Yeah, we'll get rid of you. We'll get VR Realm on.
You're sad.
He's already got a podcast, mate.
Well, at least he listens to me. He would maybe. But yeah, I think about an hour each one, so it's nice. It's one of those games that you can. I like VR games that take about an hour, and then you can go do something else, or you can just chip away at it nicely. Even then, that breaks down. I think there were 4 or 5 sort of different room settings and stuff in it, so you could break it down again when you move on from one location to the next. You could break that hour down even further if you only wanted to play for 15 minutes. What I would say is it's Retropolis 2, and there is a bit of a recap, but not really. It's very confusing as to what's going on, what happened in the first game. It kind of introduces you who the characters are and the fact that one of them's gone missing. But I'm like, I don't know who this person is and the relationships going on with stuff. And so it could do a better job, even if it was just, a text.
I'm surprised they didn't kind of like box them together and just release them as a package.
Yeah, it's annoying because it's a bit like that.
I feel
Red
like they should
Matter
have done that
2 situation. Like if Retropolis 1's going to come out, then like I suppose they don't want to say that because people won't buy this one until it does, I guess. But they're good because it's like all about police missing. It's all about your police investigator. So why wasn't there just like a police case file which summed up everything that happened in the first game that I could have just read and be like, okay. I mean, I'm sure I can go on Wikipedia or something and find. Sure, I can find online a synopsis somewhere, but
You can get Quest and play the first one on you.
Yeah,
I could.
It's on App Lab. It's quite cheap actually, so you can get the first one.
And one thing the game does do on these sorts of games,
He's still putting off getting that quest, and every time we mention it, he just.
I'll get on one day. I'll go on one day. No rush.
On Monday, that's quick.
One day. One of the things this game does is in these sort of games, when you get stuck, often they can have a hint system, and it doesn't really have a hint system. It literally just has, you go to the menu and it's got walkthrough. So I click on that, and it literally just boots up the browser and the headset, and it's just got a written walkthrough of everything to do step by step, as if it's done on like old school like Game FAQs website. And but it's really useful because you don't have to like puzzle things out. And so I did use that a couple of times because again, I'm not like in the swing of it, and I think as I get on further in the game, I wouldn't use it so much. But it's just like, oh, okay, that's what you can do in this game. Okay, I get it now. Or that's so that some of the puzzles there's at the end of the first episode is set in a lighthouse with different levels, and there's different puzzles on each level. You have to sort of solve them all, and there's some on some level that are interactive or like have a bearing on ones in other levels, and I didn't quite appreciate that until I read the walkthrough. I was like, oh, okay, so it's not just self-contained; it can also be involved. And that's probably, if you do point and click adventures and stuff back in the day, that's probably a bit more obvious than it was for me. But I like the fact that there was no like pushing around. If you get stuck, you don't have to get your phone, because in VR it's really hard to get your phone out to look at a walkthrough and stuff. And VR games often isn't a written walkthrough. You have to just find a YouTube video and then just watch some fucking adverts and stuff. So it's just really annoying process to try and get help in a game. But in this, it's just like, no, we'll just tell you, here's a step-by-step guide of everything you need to do. So it's fantastic that that's there, as for people like me that just are impatient, and when you think I'm not going to get this because I'm just too stupid to work this puzzle out. But it's a good way to like learn the ropes with it, and then I feel like now, like, okay, now I won't use that because unless I get really stuck, because I feel like I better understand the language of the game and what it's trying to do and stuff, and how it wants me to go about solving these things.
I already know how you're going to answer this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Is you already mentioned the answer to it before you ask
No,
the question?
It's 1 hour long, Alex.
But so does using the walkthrough have any impact on unlocking the trophies?
No, it's just literally it's a browser web document. You can't like.
Yeah, but if you click on, I mean, a lot of games like that, if you like complete a run and you don't use, there'll be like a trophy for completing a run without using a walkthrough.
Pro Country does it if you use the hints too much in it. The main question, then, I think the one everyone really wants to know: does he have a platinum?
Don't know. Maybe.
Can you quickly like find out for us? I mean, this is
a key piece of information, Laurie.
Yeah,
you should appreciate this by now.
This is the decider whether I buy it or not. Basically, if he doesn't have a platinum, I'm not going to buy it. He's looking. Just quickly go on your PlayStation profile. Just have a quick look.
Laurie is secretly a trophy hunter. He just likes to pretend
that
he
is. It does have a platinum. Yeah, it does. Ooh. It has 5 gold, 9 silver, 22 bronze.
That'll get your score up, Reese.
Yeah. I'll soon get that 999 on there.
Yeah.
There you go.
People just usually dial that when they see you, but yeah.
So I wish Retropolis 1 was available to play.
I just literally got onto what Alex said. It's been a long day.
But Retropolis 1 not being there, notwithstanding, it's a cool game. I like it, and I like these kind of puzzle games in VR. I like some of the. It's a bit. Some of the rooms feel like, or some of the sections of it feel like you're in the kind of crystal maze, and you've got these kind of logic puzzles to try and work out. And they are quite ingenious and clever. Some of them. So some of them are a bit too clever for their own good. I think once I looked up in the walkthrough, I was like, oh, okay. And some of them are solved accidentally, and I was like, oh, okay. I never would have got that on purpose. But I'm very much intrigued to see where the game goes next.
Sounds good.
Interesting. Yeah. And just in case anyone didn't hear, how long is each episode?
The first one's about an hour, Reese. So
cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I mean, quicker. If you could probably get through it in like 20 minutes if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. If you use all the hints.
It took me about an hour. So, yeah.
Fair play.
So bear in mind.
Not too bad.
Cool. All right. Well, we better get into our main event, our main interview with the Sushi Ben developers. Before we do, though, if people want to support us, they can give the podcast a sub on the service they're using. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe buttons and all of that kind of stuff. Follow us on Twitter too at @crossbuttonvr. And also, I'd like to take a moment to let you know that this episode is sponsored by Kiwi Design. specialize in producing and designing accessories for the Meta Quest. Whether it be cable management, controller grips, battery head straps, they have you covered. You can help support us and save a few pounds or dollars or euros or whatever by heading over to kiwidesign.com. And you can use the link in the description for this episode. And if you enter the code CBVR at the checkout, you get 5% off. And who can say fairer than that?
Yeah.
You two big fans of your Kiwi stuff, right?
They have got me hooked up to PCVR this week, so I love Kiwi.
Oh, yes. Well,
Yes.
Next week, people can tune in to hear all about your adventures with PC VR, sponsored by
Yes.
Kiwi.
I mean, the cable was ordered, but yes, I went for the Kiwi one, obviously. Why wouldn't you?
Nice,
And they
nice.
do have some good discounts on the go at the minute on their website,
Yes.
and you get the 5% off on top of the discount. So
Wow. Discounts on top of a discount.
yeah,
Amazing.
keep an eye on
Right.
the Twitter. Those are good.
Well, people can look forward to hearing Reese's adventures in PC VR land next week. But until then, though, we'll say thank you for listening to this episode. And if you've enjoyed it, please tell your family and your friends all about us. And yeah, thank you to everyone for the support you give us. I've been your host, Laurie. These two have been Alex and Reese. And we will see you again next time. Until then, here is our interview with Brian and Kane. But I suppose it would be good to start off if you want to just sort of introduce yourselves and what you both do at Big Brane Studios, I guess.
I guess I'll go first. Sushi Ben is, well, I'm Dima or Kane, whatever you want to call me. That's just my social media handle. Sushi Ben was kind of like my thesis project in college. I went to college for like 2D animation, and then I had an idea for a VR game like 8 years ago. Actually, 8 years ago to this month, I had an idea for Sushi Ben. And then I changed like all of my classes in college to do like game design and 3D modeling and all this like art related stuff, so I could try to make my own, VR game. And then after graduation, I worked on the game over the summer, and then I met Brian in the fall of 2020, like during the height of lockdowns and stuff, And I met Brian at an Oculus game jam. They have one every year.
Wow.
And so I met Brian during that.
Huh? I think that was the first one they did.
Oh, is it the first time they've ever done the game jam that year?
Yeah,
or ever?
The start game jams? I think that was the first one.
Okay. Well, they started doing it. It's now a tradition, I guess. Every year they do a game jam for all the Oculus Start developers. And I
remember what the game jam was that you created? Yeah,
we created a game based off of the Indian festival Holi. It's like the festival of colors.
Yeah.
Wow. We made a little like Splatoon-like multiplayer game in like 2 weeks or something.
Amazing.
So that was really fun. And then I was also a part of the Oculus Start program or Launchpad, which is like this incubator that they used to do. I don't know if it's the same anymore, but they used to back then. They had this little incubator, and then every year they'd invite a bunch of VR developers to apply for it. And then if you get in, you get to spend the next like 3 or 4 months developing a prototype for your VR game. And if they like it, they'll fund it. Unfortunately, me and Brian, we didn't finish it on time because of my because of my grandiose scope. I'm a big scope guy. I make scope increase every second of every day. And so we couldn't finish it on time, but me and Brian decided to keep working on it, just me and him. And we just grinded on it for like several months. And then one day we got funded after posting on Twitter a bunch. I would post our progress like every day. And eventually we got funding through that. People reached out to us to my Twitter DMs. And that's kind of how everything started.
And how many of you were there at the studio at the time?
It was just me and Brian at that time. We had 3 other people that had helped with the demo that we were creating, but they were no longer working on it anymore. So it was just me and Brian at that point.
How many have you got at the studio now?
Yeah, I think there's only 3 of us right now.
3?
Yep, three people that are working on it like full time.
Just
we're
at peak.
That just blows my mind.
well, we had a lot of people work on the project.
Oh, okay, fair play.
Brian, your mic's kind of quiet. I don't know if it's just. me or. But yeah, there's been over 30 people that have touched the game, that have done different parts of it. Like we hire contract artists to do the character models. We'll hire someone on a contract to do like character designs. We had a ton of character designers from Japan. And we had animators. So there was about 30 overall that had worked on the game, but those were not all at the same time. So it was like sometimes there would be people on there for like 3 months, doing stuff, and that's it.
So there come a point in development then when you got funded and it went from being a kind of idea and some early demos, I guess, to just really taking off and exploding, and that's when you got all the artists in and the studio, the really ramped up production.
We ramped up maybe too fast. Once we got
Is
funding.
there ever such a thing?
Is there ever such a thing? Yeah, it can be. I think if I ramped up slower, it would have made the production a little smoother. But yeah, we ramped up really fast after we got our first round of funding.
And at that point, when you got the first round, where were you? What state was the game in? What did it kind of look like?
Oh, it was not. There was a tech. There's like this old tech demo. I can send you a video of it, of like a playthrough. Because I don't think it's online anymore. But it was just like this tech demo, 7 minutes long, totally different art style, totally different everything. The gameplay was actually very similar to what the final game wound up being like. But it was just that you find this girl who got almost ran over by a truck, and then you take her out to eat. And then some crazy stuff happens where Ben gets attacked by an octopus. And you have to like chop the tentacle to like save him from the octopus, and then you eat with that girl, and the game's over. So
it sounds like you're giving away a plot here to a sequel.
Yeah, right.
Do you eat the octopus though? That is the question.
Yeah, no, you don't eat it in this game. You do in actual Sushi Ben. So,
so you said there that the art style was different back then. So obviously, it wasn't always intended to be anime manga style, no?
No, it was always intended to be that. It's just the art quality wasn't as good.
Oh, okay.
It had more
iterations overall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burned a lot of money chasing art styles.
Oh yeah, we probably went through 4 or 5 different art styles before we settled on what it is currently.
Yeah, we always knew it was going to be anime looking, and we always knew it was going to be a low poly looking game. Like the one thing that never ever changed was the character modeling style, which was that Mega Man Legends esque style of low poly, PS1 era style stuff. But our own HD version of it, that concept had never changed. That's something I'd always wanted. But for the tech demo, we didn't have that particular artist on the team yet, so we couldn't have that kind of art style. But yeah, that was always going to be the case. But it just had different ways of looking anime. we tried a Ghibli art style where there's all like really
that would have been
textures.
Interesting.
Yeah, it looked really pretty, but. Yeah, Brian was gonna say it doesn't look good in VR.
Yeah, exactly. It looks amazing.
That's
flat mode. Like on a screen, it looks beautiful, but in VR, the content is too rapid. I guess there's just too much going on. So on
a lot of noise
headsets, it looks really cluttered, and there's bad aliasing effects. And stuff.
Bad aliasing, shimmer. You get the awful shimmering, Moira effects, and it was rough. So it was way too hard to like get it to look good. So we switched back to like a flat cell shaded style, which wound up being the easiest and better result, I think, for the devices that we were publishing on.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the game it's fantastic. That's when I started playing it. It really shocked me just how sort of clean and sharp it looks on PSVR2.
4K textures.
Yeah, well, I mean, not all games
dynamic
do that.
foveated rendering.
Yeah, the dynamic. I think that's a big one that lets us get away with
dynamic rendering on PlayStation VR2 helps a lot. Like that, we can push it so much harder on PlayStation than we can on other platforms. I even think it looks better on PlayStation than it does on PC.
Yeah, it has a cool looking effect to it.
Like you can make it very good on PC.
Interesting to hear.
Like it depends very heavily on the particular setup, right?
So.
Yeah. So we have seen some games that launch without it, and the game just generally looks quite blurry, and then they patch it in later. You think, wow, now it looks clean and sharp, and you can imagine like it just makes so much sense from you can only look at one thing at any one time, so just focus on making that look as good as it can do. And you did a great job on that on the game.
That was all Brian. Brian is our extreme tech man.
He makes the thing.
Superstar Brian right there.
Yeah. Yeah, he did almost all of the work on PlayStation VR himself, like all the stuff that he had to do on his own, because the rest of us didn't have the headset, because we only got one. And so Brian was the only one who was able to do that, and he's our our lead tech guy. So
can you tell us how long you had one, or how long before the launch of the headset did you?
I mean, we
did
did get one.
Get hold of it?
We got one before launch. We signed the contracts and stuff with Sony a very long time ago, and so the original plan was to have a launch where it would come out on Quest and PlayStation at the same time, but that just didn't work out. Turns out it's extremely hard to release on multiple platforms. This being our first game, we weren't really prepared for how challenging the quality testing process would be, right before launch. So it probably took me about 6 months ish.
5 months. 5 months.
Yeah, 5 months
5 months
of just working on it every day, trying to optimize it as much as possible for PlayStation. And there were a few minor issues that you wouldn't really expect, but nothing really that interesting. Mostly we were just trying to make sure we got the quality bar up as high as possible, and we brought it all the way up to 120 FPS because I'm a big believer in that. I think frame rate is incredibly important to making VR feel comfortable and realistic.
Definitely.
For sure.
So
I think that's one thing I've noticed. We're playing some Quest games every now and then. You see the frame rates drop, and you really do notice it, and it just kind of, I wouldn't say completely ruins the experience, but it's enough to make you go, oh, especially when it constantly happens. It's just, it can be quite sickening at times, and even when you've been playing VR for a long time, it can still hit you.
Yeah.
But I definitely would say that the polishing you've done on the game is phenomenal, because I think I only ran into one thing, and it's not even really an issue. It's more of just me naturally breaking games like I always do. I don't know. I have a knack for it. I just end up breaking stuff.
Some people are good at that.
Yeah. So I've only run into one thing.
We have a guy in our Discord server who's incredibly good at that.
That's all he does all day.
His hobby is to break our game for us and tell us what's wrong. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah. But that must be really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say there was one point where Brian, everyone should thank Brian for the 120 FPS, because there was one point where we had to make a decision: do we want to lock it at 90 or 120? And Brian fought really hard for the 120, and I'm glad he won out on that, because I think the response from everyone, all the PSVR community, people talk about that a lot. When they talk about the game, that makes me super happy that people enjoy that. So
it is one thing that's always said is especially higher frame rates and dynamic foveated rendering is the one thing a lot of PlayStation VR2 people will kind of scream for. Yeah, understandably, because I think it's the two things. It's the two things that stand out on the headset the most for me, really. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy the headset haptics and the sense control haptics, but at the same point, I would always take performance of the game over them, little features.
Yeah. I mean,
and I feel like I've grown immune to them as well.
If you're gonna have that wire connecting you to the PS5, you want the game to look good, right?
You want it to look amazing, right? Yeah.
If it comes out looking worse than the Quest version, you think, well, I might just play this on the Quest and not
have
that.
Yeah.
Had that before.
So I don't know which of you would be best placed to answer this, I guess, but a lot of the devs we talked to, because obviously VR is still quite new and a lot of them started the games before a lot of the games that are now out, and a lot of people have been having to work out the conventions for VR design from scratch, essentially. Everyone's been trying to solve the same problems, and we do play some releases you're just like, oh, why is it so awkward just doing simple things, and why isn't it like that game? But of course, when games started, there was no rule book to follow and stuff, and I presume 5 years from now VR games will all have learned from where we are at now, and they'll be even nicer to play. But how was that? Because there's so many different types of gameplay in Sushi Ben. There's so many little activities and things that you can do and things to interact with, and like the fishing and the net, and just picking things up, and it's just being able to move the dialogue boxes around and just move it up and down and side, just little things like that. Like how hard was it to work all that out for yourself? And because you seem to have nailed it for pretty much everything. And was there anyone, I suppose, at the game jams, were you sharing ideas at those sorts of things?
That's a Brian question.
Honestly, it was incredibly difficult and challenging to put all that stuff out. There are a lot of things where we would plan them out one way, and then Kane had his vision of everything that he wanted to happen in the game, right? And then the writer, Moa, who is excellent, by the way, would write the story in a way that sometimes didn't perfectly align with Kane's original vision or what we were planning on building. So then we had to rework things a little bit to make sure it all still fit. And then we had to make it work comfortably and mechanically in VR. And for that, like, I've been doing VR since 2016, so I've done a lot of experimentation over the years on what works and what doesn't work. Kane's been involved in it for a really long time as well. And we hired this guy, Div, who is phenomenal. He's the guy who set up all of the basic interactions for the hands and made sure we had physics-based hands and all of those sorts of things. He built fishing pretty much himself from the ground up. So, lots of credit to him for making everything really work.
Brian, you gave the impression that you were just kind of stuck between the two divas of Moa and Kane, trying to just.
That's what it was. That's 100% what it was.
Right? Okay, I've now got to make this real. Okay.
Oh, I'll just do it. How's this? Please tell me you like it because I've spent this many hours on it.
Yeah. Kane's like, we need ghost catching.
We need ghost catching. Yeah, every time I come back, I'm
Seriously?
like, there's a new thing that we have to add, and you have no choice.
I mean, we fought a lot in making the whole product, right, and trying to figure out what we really needed in the game. And there would be things where I wouldn't want to do it, or I would want to do it a different way, and Kane would insist it needs to be done a certain way, and we'd go back and forth bickering about it. But ultimately, I think we came to a pretty good conclusion on the majority of it. A good example of that, by the way, seated mode. Like, I was very insistent from the jump that we did not need to focus on seated mode. We needed to focus on standing gameplay, because most people who are core VR gamers want to like stand up and be able to move around their room. Kane, on the other hand, said no one cared about that. Everyone wants to just sit down and relax on their couch. And it turns out that doing both of them and making sure that everything is supported so that the majority, like anybody, can play it however is comfortable for them, really works out better.
Yeah.
So
I'm a sitting gamer.
Yeah. So I've always viewed seated in VR more of like an accessibility option in a sense, because I used to play with somebody who was in a wheelchair, so you couldn't play games standing up at all. So
yeah, we wanted to make sure that anyone could play.
Yeah.
Despite if they were laying in bed. The game might be a little bit harder if you were laying in bed, but I have played most of it in bed, so.
I'm assuming that's on the Quest, right? Because you've got the laying down mode.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm fully converted. Whenever I play the game, I'm sitting. Like, when we started development, I would always stand up, but now, no.
Yeah,
it heavily depends on the game for me.
I always generally standing up, but Sushi Ben, I will play that sitting down. It works really nicely.
I think because
recalibrates.
The amount of dialogue that's in the game makes it quite hard to stand for the whole time. I don't think it's as good standing, but I think if as a seated experience, it definitely feels better for me, and I think I would recommend people to play seated for most of it.
Okay, really fits the vibe overall, right? Because we were trying to go for this very comfortable, cozy atmosphere and everything, and there's not really much comfortable about standing in one spot for a couple hours at a time. I mean, the game's like 6 hours, 7 hours long, so it's a lot.
Depending on how fast you skip dialogue
on your couch while you play that.
Yeah, and then you've got things like you've just got the story mode where you basically don't have to do the mini games. And I love the mix of the locomotion, like you can teleport, and the free movement. And there's very few games I like to teleport, but on this, because you have to sort of go back and forth across the town, you can kind of walk, but then almost kind of like take shortcuts by you sort of leapfrog.
So that's
it's great for speed running.
Yeah.
If you just want to rush through that whole town, you can be across that town in minutes with that. Just using it as a combo.
So that's another thing where me and Brian had a little slight disagreements where like I wanted to have roof traversal because like that's my favorite thing in the world. I like teleporting, and Brian was like, no one wants to teleport. And I think every time I see people playing, they all teleport on the roofs.
I use it to jump off the mountains just to obviously get down the bottom a bit quicker. Like I'm like, straight out of the flat, right that band to the bottom.
So that was performance related though. Quest has no headroom. You gotta you really have to be careful on Quest what you can do and what you can't do. So I just wanted to get rid of anything that could possibly hurt performance there. And I was fighting against roofs on that one, but I'm glad I lost because it makes the game better. So
I like mixed locomotion because sometimes I want to just teleport somewhere instead of just having to walk. So Brian was really good. He wanted to make sure that we had all of the accessibility features, all the different ways to play. Because we see a lot of VR games they launch and they don't have hardly any settings that could be give people different ways to play. So
That usually gets an instant complaint from me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something I've noticed
Straight
watching
away.
videos of people, there's one video I remember watching of the Horizon game for PSVR2 where the guy starts playing and the first thing he does is went into the settings menu and critiqued all of the different options that they had. And I remember watching that and thinking, that's not going to happen to us. We're going to make sure we have all the options in there that people want.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing I think a lot of VR players do. Like when I play games now and they haven't got locomotion, instantly I'm like, you need to have that difference. You can't just have one. It's changed so much now. I mean, back in the day when it was like on the PSVR 1, you didn't even have analogs on the controllers. You was kind of like, okay, I'm set with locomotion. You have to hold a button. It didn't feel right all the time. But now you've kind of got no excuse not to add it.
Yeah, that's my thoughts on that. There's no excuse not to have those.
Yeah.
So I mean, at the end of the
agree
day,
with that.
everybody VR is a weirdly personal experience, right? And people are going to want to be able to play it in a way that's natural and comfortable for them. So with a flat game, you really only have to make the game feel like the game. But in VR, you have to make the game feel comfortable for the person who's playing it. You have to make it natural for each individual person. So you have to add a lot more stuff to accommodate everybody.
Just in terms of that VR design, just pick up on one of the things you did a blog post on the PlayStation blog talking around in VR. People are the camera. You can't direct things in the same way you can in flat games because people can look wherever they want. And you could have some, in a narrative game, you could have some action unfolding and someone could just look away and just completely not pay attention to it and miss it. So, and we've spoke to some developers who say like there aren't that many narrative-based games in VR. It just isn't the same sort of market in them. So. Yeah, and what? Yeah, just if you can explain some of the process behind that and how hard it is and how you kind of overcame that.
So that was my thesis. My literal thesis in college was like how to do like VR better, VR narratives better. How to actually do good storytelling in VR. And I think we pulled that off. And the main crutch of the thesis was like the 3D manga panels. Because like we can use those to do all sorts of wacky things and help direct players' attention. I wanted to do more, but just from time constraints, I couldn't pull off a lot of that with the 3D manga panels as I wanted to. But I think the addition of the 3D manga panels helped us direct and show players things that they might have missed. And it was just like a great way to also keep them engaged during long sequences of dialogue. Because almost every other dialogue has like a manga panel to it. There's like 2,000 something panels in the game or whatever.
And some of them are really hilarious as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, so like that was kind of our answer to the problem. And I think it turned out well. I think I can do even better if we ever get to make Sushi Ben 2. But
please do.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, I know we've spoke to developers before, and they said that when you're telling a story in VR, you have 100% of people's attention. They're not looking at their phone at the same time, or they're not staring out the window.
Exactly.
You've got them to tell them a story. So I guess that comes with a sort of pressure.
Yeah, it's hard. I think it's hard to keep their attention. It's hard to get people to look where you want. But I think we staged the game in a way where most of the time I haven't noticed people missing. Other than the tutorials where people don't pay attention to the tutorial panels and they don't learn how to fish properly by grabbing the top of the rod and moving it or whatever. I think that was our biggest challenge with that sort of thing. But other than that, I don't think people really missed, or at least all the playthroughs I've seen of people playing it, I've never seen them miss things that are happening because they're looking at a bird over there or something.
I mean, it does work really well.
The Yakuza bird.
The Yakuza.
People, if you have a flashing light somewhere and a sound effect, it tends to drag people's attention toward that. So we tried to structure everything in the scenes so that if you wanted to draw attention from one character to another, right, then you could have the dialogue box slide over there when it moves instead of just teleporting. So it makes it easier to follow where it's going. Then you've got the panels popping up over there and a sound that's fully spatialized, so you hear where it's coming from, and it makes it a lot easier to be like, oh, that's where I'm supposed to be going next,
Yep.
Yeah, I think as I've spoke to some more developers, I've kind of come to appreciate those sort of cues, those visual and audio cues. Sometimes I'm playing a game with my non-gamer wife next to me. She's like, "How do you know where to go?" And I'm like, "You can just tell. You can see the sort of little breadcrumb trails there." Yeah, I mean, and obviously, if you think of Breath of the Wild and so it does it so beautifully. It's just like if you don't know what to look for, you don't appreciate what's going on. But when sort of developers explain to you those little cues or things that they want you to look at, those bits of yellow paint or whatever it might be, it's like when you spot it, it's like, oh, okay, now I can't unsee that. It's
yeah. That was a big challenge in the game, honestly, because it is essentially an open world game. When you walk through the tunnels, it's actually not even a loading screen. You're just being teleported to the other side of the map. So like it's basically kind of an open world game where people get lost easily. And so like that's why we did have to have like those guide beams, because on launch we had a lot less of those games for the Quest. We had a whole lot less of those beams, and then we started watching people streaming the game. And I watched several people get lost for this one part of the game for like hours, and I felt bad. I felt because they didn't know they could walk through the tunnel, because it's like the tunnel kind of fades to black, and they didn't know that they could walk through the tunnel. And I tried giving them hints before that through the manga panels, but they kind of missed those. And so then we had to go put like a little indicator beam, because people were getting lost, and I couldn't. I wanted the game. The game was supposed to be accessible. And it's not supposed to be like Dark Souls or something, and so we wanted, So
that's coming next.
Yeah, that's coming next. I wanted to make like the Dark Souls of narrative games. I wanted to make like a really hard narrative game. So like that's why ghost catching was so hard at first.
To be fair, the first time that was a bit tricky. I was
it was hard.
What am I doing here? Not as hard as the sculpting. I was like, what am I doing here?
But yeah, so that
for the sculpting, by the way, had no visual indicator. It was pure audio. It
was supposed to be a pure audio thing. Yeah, it was supposed to be a mini game where you find the sound, like you ding on the rock, and then you find the sound, then you hit the hammer there, and it turns into the sculpture. But
it took me a while. I was looking at the tutorial thing. I was like, what are you telling me to do? I'm like walking all around just slapping this rock, and I'm like, it's dinged. I get what I need to do now. And I was like, I broke it like 7 times until I actually got to the point where I did it correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to never underestimate how stupid your game is.
Yeah. I mean, going back to the people getting lost. I also noticed, and I didn't actually notice this at first, but when you look at the map, you can actually see the pointers on the maps. And you said people didn't know you could go through the tunnels. I mean, I feel like the pointers on the map kind of indicate that you can travel through that, that area to go to the next. So I feel like you've done it quite well in a sense there, but like
some people don't open the map.
Some people just don't pick up on certain things and certain indicators that you give them. So
I mean,
we tried to do it a lot.
I've had people tell me that they didn't realize that the map or that the watch that you get at the beginning of the game has a compass on it that directs you to all those waypoints. Like you can just follow your watch, and
that's literally what I do the whole time, just run around
like that. Yeah. You could use that to follow everywhere you need to go.
I had a couple people tell me that they didn't notice until like halfway through the game at all. So
making a game is hard.
Yeah.
Is it not enough yellow paint?
Not enough yellow paint.
Yeah.
So, go on, Reese. Go on.
What I wanted to know, because when you was doing your thesis and you worked at a sushi bar with Takayuki and Ben Okuda, was the game actually inspired by him?
Yeah. It was inspired. Like I had always, anytime while in college, I had a class project. I would do something related to the sushi bar that I worked at. And so like when I had an idea for a VR game, I was like, well, I'll just make it themed based off of what I know. And so that was the sushi bar.
And the next question is kind of a 2-part. Has he seen the game?
Yeah. He's seen it.
What was his thoughts?
He was freaked out. He didn't think it was real, because for years I'd been talking about this for 8 years. I've been telling him, "Yeah, dude, I'm making a game about us. About the sushi bar and about you, and I'm naming it after you." And he was like, "Yeah, sure." He didn't believe it.
Wow.
Wait, so we're actually playing as you in the game then, if you think of it, really?
I mean, if you think of it, think of it could be like me, but it's supposed to be you, okay? But
no, it's Kane. My character's Kane now.
Yeah. So, so like it was just the hugest inspiration. I worked there for like 6 or 7 years or something while I was in college doing my master's and undergrad, and it's just I don't know. It's a big part of my life, and so that's why it was the easiest thing to make a game about.
He must have been absolutely humbled by that, and then just to hear the thoughts back about it as well, with people playing this and just constantly talking about Sushi Ben. I bet you got loads of the websites like, people are mentioning me again. Oh wait, no, it's not me. It's the game. They put PSVR2 on the end of it. That's nothing to do with the restaurant.
Yeah. When it came out on Sony, when it came out on Sony, he called his parents and was like, "Yeah, look, I'm on PlayStation." Because they're back in Japan, so it's a much bigger deal for the back there.
Oh, that's amazing.
And he'll try to sell the game while he's when people come up, he's like, "Do you know my game, Sushi Ben?" And he's like showing them on the phone or whatever. He's like, "Yo, here."
They made a game about me.
Yeah. It's so funny.
That is brilliant. That is so good.
A great claim to
I love
fame.
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that idea.
And obviously, you're now in the process of porting the game to non-VR platforms. How's that going? How's that process working out for? Well, I guess for you, Brian, is it?
Yeah, it's more of a Brian thing.
It's going.
It's going.
Somewhere.
We're talking about kind of all these VR conventions and mechanics, but obviously, if you strip all that out, then you've got that full control over what the players looking at and stuff. It must be a whole completely different set of challenges, is it?
It is.
Especially with fishing and things like that.
Having some issues trying to rework all of the mini games and make sure that they all play effectively in a flat mode, and we want to make them like compelling at the same time. Like we have a version of it where we can play the VR game on flat mode, which is just useful for testing. But trust me, you don't want to like flick a fishing rod by pulling your camera back and flipping it forward. It's not fun. So we have to rework all of that sort of stuff to really make it comfortable in flat mode. And we've also got to rework all the UI and everything too, because if like in the game in VR, right, you've got the dialogue boxes, which are fairly small and distant from the player. And if you're looking at this tiny little dialogue box in the middle of your screen that's kind of far away in flat mode, it's got to be that's comfortable
up front on the screen.
Yeah. The other thing, this is essentially a VR port, so we're not really going to be doing. I mean, it's more like a flat mode. We're porting from VR to the flat mode, so it's going to feel like a VR game that was ported to flat mode for the most part, in terms of like how you control and how the visuals are. So like, you're still going to have free control of the camera. You can look around with your mouse or control stick, and not much of that is going to change. Like we're not going to do anything crazy with that. But for the most part, we do have to work on all the mini games and UI stuff. So that's been a challenge.
Yeah, the goal from my end is to make it so when people play the flat mode game, one, they're satisfied and like they enjoy it, but also I want them to think, "Wow, this has got to be so much cooler in VR," and then make them
that's the goal.
VR.
Yeah, we would prefer people to play in VR.
Yeah,
the Gran Turismo 7 effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So beyond the non-VR port, then what does the future hold for Big Brane Studios?
Well,
what can we expect next?
I mean, we are doing a big update for the game. That'll be, they'll come to all platforms. So so that they'll have new mini games, side content. Not new mini games, but more side content. Because I think that was one of our biggest requests from players, was that they wanted more side content to do outside of the story. So we have a big update that's coming. I'm not sure. I don't know a date on that yet, but that's like one of the biggest things we are working on. But beyond Sushi Ben, I don't know. I mean, I want a sequel. that's what I want.
Me too.
That's
easy for me to say, though.
Yeah. That's the goal. Is like we want to make enough money till we can make a sequel. But like we have some stuff that we can't talk about that we might be doing involving another big IP, but that's like that might not even exist yet. So it's just. We have other things lined up potentially in the future.
Is that the one I tweeted at?
Yeah, no.
Ape Escape, here we come.
Ape Escape. I would honestly, what? Because when you tweeted that, I was like, because I've been thinking that too when we were making bug catching and some of the other.
Yeah, it was literally that. I was like, Ape Escape would work so well with this.
I would love to do that because the art style, we could already use a similar art style, and it would just be super sick. So. That may be something I will attempt.
This is a dangerous
if I don't get to make a sequel, I will go beg for a Ape Escape if Brian wants to do it with me.
I would literally cry if you did that. That would hit me right in the nostalgia.
Yeah, I think we would love to be able to do some other IPs as well with our studio. We have like a really talented network of artists and people that we can work with to make some really cool stuff. Alongside more Sushi Ben content, we have the connections to do that sort of stuff, and we would definitely probably love to do that in the future. So, Maybe I'll look into it.
Something
Sounds
real
good.
quick that I think got lost in there. Part of that update that's coming is also going to have localization into a lot of different languages, which is something we missed on launch. But it's definitely going to have like German, French, Spanish, Korean, simplified Chinese, probably some more Portuguese.
Just written, not audio.
Yeah. We may. So one of the other things that we wanted to do was an English voice cast.
No.
Yeah, but only
So
because
good, though.
the biggest thing is just because some of the fans want to do like a fan dub of that. So like I wouldn't mind including something like that. But yeah, my original goal was only Japanese. I'm a big weeb, I guess you could say. So I was really into the voice actor type stuff. Like that was like one of my biggest. I think to me like that out of all of this, one of my favorite just big achievements was getting all these famous voice actors on the game. Like that was. People I grew up listening to when I was a kid, watching like we've got, if y'all ever watched Bleach, Aizen is one of the voices of one of the characters in our game. And that was like, I grew up watching that as a kid, and that was huge to have that actor in my game. So.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've watched some of Bleach, not all of it.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's an older anime.
And it's very long.
Yeah, it's very long. Yeah, it's one of the big things.
Well, I mean, I can't wait to see what comes next, because I think with Sushi Ben, I can't believe it's your first game and you just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's one of our favorite releases on the show. So yeah, we should be watching and paying close attention.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, I love to hear that. That's I'm glad people have liked it so much. Even people who don't really like the type of game that it is.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't even know what do you classify the game. It's like a advanced visual novel at this point.
I think we struggled with that as well, because of all the side stuff to it, and I think we just called it like a story-driven narrative mini game.
That's
it
what
was
we're
just
calling
trying to roll things together. Too many subgenres.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Majora's Mask. Was my favorite Zelda game of all time, and I really liked the side quests in the game. And so that's why there's no side quests in the launch of the game, is because I just wanted to make a bunch of side quests.
That's the whole game is side quests.
Yeah, the whole game is to me, the whole game was side quests, but I think people who don't know that don't realize that. So it was just all side quests that kind of all merged together into like a final little thing. And because that's what I liked about Majora's Mask, was all the mask quests. And so I wanted to kind of replicate that feeling. And some people don't know this, but people think the game is straight linear, but you can choose which. There are some quests that you can choose to do or not do.
You want.
Yeah, you can do either like the first 3. There's like 4 quests that you can choose to do at the start of the game. You can either do that one or that one or that one, but you'll eventually have to do all of them. But depending on what you've done, it may look like a linear experience. Mm-hmm. But from the dev side of things, it actually is not 100% linear. So, yeah.
Well, guys, I think we could talk to you all night, but I think we probably need to end it there, just because we're going to have a very, very
there's a lot to edit.
Week, but
yeah,
no, I don't think it's going to need much editing. So yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, this was great.
It's been really good.
It's been great. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for the kind words.